welcome back to episode number 3 of the Training Log Podcast, the podcast where two D3 runners give their perspective on running and training. I am Lucas Berg, along with Noah Pickard. Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Lucas. Today we have Kelly Vincent, our coach for SUNYAC, who recently just won, along with her coaching staff, SUNYAC Women's Cross Country Coaching Staff of the Year.
Clap it up.
So you want to dive right into this?
Yeah, I think we should go right into it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, it's an awesome experience to have. And so we're going to start with this little warm-up question. I know you can see, so I'll go back. But we asked JT this on the last episode. If you haven't seen that episode, go check out that episode. But little hotly debated topic. What's the best time of the year to run?
I mean, for me, I'm a good, I like the spring, but I also really like the fall. You know, I think the fall is not too hot, not too cold, kind of the same with the spring. Hate the winter. Hate how cold it gets. So, you know, I got to go with the fall or the spring on this one.
Okay. Yeah, we argued about it a lot last episode.
I watched.
I still can't make up my mind. The fall has its merits too. The summer's so fun. The spring is good. Winter has its pros as well.
Yeah. I was saying last episode how I said summer was the best, but then running on the track that was snow covered yesterday.
Oh man.
Just my Western New York brain, running out of snow is just the funnest thing ever.
So I think our general consensus has turned to we have no idea when the heck the best time of year to run is, and we're gonna try to find it out over every single episode.
Yeah.
But Noah, do you want to take it away with the first real question?
Yeah, so we want to know your kind of start in the sport, and then how did that come along to you becoming a coach?
Yeah, so when I was in middle school, you know, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life and everything. I actually used to be a competitive figure skater, believe it or not.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you know, you always knew about me every day. And you know, my parents actually just kind of threw me in the car one day and they were like, we're going to go for a ride. And I'm like, oh, where are we going? They didn't tell me. They were just like, grab your sneakers, just get in the car. They dropped me off at the cross country coach's house and they were just like, yeah, you're going to run cross country this year. Have fun. And then for some reason, I just kept going back to it. You know, I really liked it. I went after cross country. I ran outdoor track because we didn't have indoor in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least where I went to high school. So yeah, I just kind of stuck with it that way and then ran in college, and that's how I got into running.
Yeah.
How I got into coaching, I would say, is, you know, I was an exercise science major in undergrad, and, you know, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. I did some shadowing in PT clinics, thought it was kind of boring, did occupational therapy, didn't really like it. I did an internship in coaching and administration and athletics, and I really liked that. So I kept kind of just going back to that. And, you know, I went to grad school, did a GA position there, and then I just got my first coaching job out of grad school at St. John Fisher and just kind of never looked back.
Awesome. So my first question I have here is just, can you describe the process of writing a workout? And then, you know, where do you start with it? How long does it take to do it for all the individual groups and everything? And just, yeah.
I mean, I would say I pretty much spend my entire Sunday just writing practices for the week. I'll write an idea and then I kind of, you know, sit on it for a little bit, kind of think about how the weekend before went or how the week, training, how racing went, if we raced or things like that. And then, you know, so I'll make some alterations, kind of talk to Coach Chris a little bit, be like, hey, what do you think of this based on, you know, this? And I'll kind of bounce ideas off of Coach Chris. And, you know, so it takes me a while, but I try to make sure I'm putting a lot of thought into it because I want to make sure I'm getting the best quality sessions ready for the week for everybody, whether it's training for the 4.8 or the 5.10 or steeple even. So it definitely takes me a while, but I always start with, you know, how did the week before go? What are our goals for the season? And what are we kind of missing in the steps to get from point A to point B?
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So recruiting is how we build the program, right?
Facts.
When recruiting, besides looking at times, is there anything you're looking at on individual level, when recruiting an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I look for athletes that are obviously interested in the institution, and, you know, we have the academic major that they are really possessing and interested in. And I also too look for kids that, I shouldn't say kids because you guys are in high school. I look for young adults or college, incoming college freshmen that want to be here and want to invest in themselves and want to be better. You know, obviously Division III, most of the time you're not looking to go professional after college. And I do actually say that to recruits. I doubt you are not going to be a professional athlete coming out of graduating from college, you know? So one of the things that I always stress is that if you're willing to invest in yourself and you're willing to run for something bigger than yourself, aka being on this team, then I think that is half the battle to being a really good runner.
Yeah, kind of building off of exactly what Noah said, just at a more specific level. Being at the school we are, like you said, D3, everything, we aren't, it's just flat out, we're not going to get like the 5-star national level type recruits. So how do you go into the recruiting process knowing that you can't get everyone, basically?
I think it's just kind of, self-assessing and just kind of gauging recruits when I talk to them. Like when I talk to some kids, they're super invested, they're super bought in. But then I talk to some kids and they're just kind of just like staring off into the space. And I'm like, okay, like I can really sort of tell that you're not interested.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that kind of helps me gauge, like, okay, like based on the conversations I'm having with you, like if you're invested, if you're asking questions, actually talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's part of like that's a big part of my recruiting. Whereas if you are showing me you're not interested, then that kind of just tells me to move on to the next recruiters or spend more time with the recruits that are interested.
What are the qualities that make up a coachable athlete, you think?
That's a good question. I would say one, not just saying you want to be here, but actually showing it, like showing that, okay, I'm going to be one of the first people to practice and maybe one of the last ones to leave because, I'm doing all the little things. I'm doing my 8-minute stretching routine, and at least I think it's 8 minutes, right?
It's 8 minutes.
Is it 8 minutes exactly?
8 minutes on the dot.
On the dot,
Yeah.
okay. Like, okay, like I'm gonna do all the things. I'm gonna come to practice before, foam roll, do some prehab, and then I'm gonna come after. I'm gonna stay after practice, do my 8-minute on the dot stretching routine, along with just asking Coach Kelly, hey, like, what'd you think of that workout? Like, was there something like asking how you can be better is always one of the things that I let this go on the record. You should always ask your coach what you can do to be better. That's just facts.
I agree.
Because again, like, you have to want to be good, and you can't just say it. Like, you have to show, like, okay, like I'm willing to try this, or like I'm willing to try the challenge that my coach is throwing at me, or things like that. So I think that that's one of the things. I think one of the other things too is just being a good teammate. Being there not just for yourself, but being there for the people in your group or just the entire team. Obviously, in track, it's a little different because we're more individualized here and there with different event specialties, but at least in cross country, it's being a good teammate not just for yourself, but for the entire group around you, because that's how not only you get better, but that's how the team gets better. And that also makes a good team culture as well.
And when recruiting, do you look at those things when you're like, oh, this guy is like a leader, like he's going to bring the team up?
Oh yeah, I mean, at high school meets, especially in track season, cross country, again, it's a little harder to kind of gauge this, but I can really gauge it in track season. Not only how do you run, but what is your demeanor? When you cross the finish line, are you throwing a temper tantrum? Like, because that's not really a kid that I would want on this team. Are you the one standing there high-fiving everyone at the finish line, or are you the one that's like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to my coach first, and then it's like that. So I do watch like body language and demeanor and how people are acting too, because I think that also makes a huge difference, because say you don't have the best race, but if you handle it like, okay, like that wasn't my best race, but I could have done better, that's a sign of a kid that I would want on this team. Mm-hmm. But if it's someone that's not having a good race and then they just go and throw their shoes off and kind of just stomp away, that's someone I don't really see as a good fit for this program.
So there are a lot of different personalities, not just on this team, but just on any team you're going to find. Mm-hmm. People who, kind of obsess over running and make it their whole thing. You mean kind of like that? You mean kind of like that? A little bit. And that's fine. Or the other thing, which is completely fine, is the people who running may not be their biggest passion or whatever, but they still do it and they enjoy doing it. How do you kind of take all those different personalities and get everybody to be on the same level, same goal, despite the fact that maybe it may be varying priorities on different people's lists? Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously I get that, everyone's on this team because they love running, but people have different loves and passions for it. So I think that one thing that both teams kind of do really well, at least on our team, one thing that both teams, men and women, do very well internally, I think, is we check in with each other. Like, I mean, both the men and the women's teams both have their bi-weekly meetings. So I think that is one good way to kind of keep everybody in check
or not necessarily in check. That's kind of not the greatest way to word it. It keeps everyone accountable, and it keeps everyone like checking in with each other, where it's like, okay, like how's school going? How's this going? How's this going? Whereas on the coaching end, it's more of just like gauging that with like body language at practice, or gauging it with like, what the demeanor of practice is. If everyone's coming to practice like super happy and just telling all these jokes and things like that, I'm like, okay, like this is going to be a good day because everyone's in a really good mood. Sometimes I know it's 6 a.m, people are not that excited, but we get there, right? So like,
I enjoyed the 6 a.m. practice.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad. Did you enjoy 6 a.m. practice?
We were just talking about this the other day, and one thing I was wondering is like, why is 6 a.m. practices so important in your mind?
Well, because it keeps the whole team together.
Exactly.
I think that part of the reason we had such a good vibe in cross country this year was because on those super hard workouts, whether it was the uphill east to west tempo or the Michigan or whatever we were doing, it kept everybody together. So like not one person was doing the workout alone. Mm-hmm. So I think that to me was a really good like step into building like that accountability piece, the togetherness piece, or the unity piece, even just to keep the culture super strong. Because when we got to meets, it was like, okay, like I'm doing practice at 6 a.m. with the same people. Now we're gonna go race together. It makes the racing, I mean, obviously racing hurts, but like it makes it feel so much easier because you have those same people with you and you're not doing it alone. So I think that was something that was really important to me this year.
But I think my lead up to that question, or my follow up to that question would be, so that's true. We had such a great vibe in cross country because everybody was together and everything. Now, how do we keep those vibes going when track just fundamentally is a separate whole entity where everybody goes off into their own groups? How can we kind of keep each other accountable together and really just cheering everyone on like we used to in cross?
I mean, I think the only thing that's different from track versus cross country is that it's just people are doing different workouts. I mean, for the most part, people are still together. Mm-hmm. We're still doing walking drills together. People are doing at least first half of the warm-up together because sometimes it does differentiate between distance, mid-distance. So like we are still doing parts of it together. People can cool down together. You can cheer each other on during your different workouts and things like that. So I would really say the only thing that is different is just the simple fact that, there's just different workouts going on specific to track events and not 8Ks or 6Ks.
Mm-hmm. Touching on Oneonta, like, why do you love Oneonta so much? And, like, just what is so unique about here that you just love so much?
Yeah, I mean, I love the people, I got here in the fall of 2021. So it's when the seniors were sophomores, essentially. And, one of the things that always stood out to me was just not even just like, obviously, kick-ass athletes, but facts. But I think, the administration is super supportive. Everyone you see on campus is just super welcoming. They always are willing to hold the door open for you or just ask how you're doing today. And I think that that's something really niche. I mean, obviously any college could say that, but it's one thing to say it versus like actually experience it. And I think that, and also too, I do like the seclusion of the campus, if you will. I think that is really nice. And also too, we just have a ton of places to train. I mean, we have the track, we have Fortin, we have Stanford. We have so many places we can just go and run. There's NEWA, you could just run from campus too and then just go run. There's just so many places to get that 1% better every day, both in the classroom and obviously in our sport. So I think that that's one of the really nice things that I love about just not even the campus, but the town as a whole and the resources that we have to get from point A to point B.
You just mentioned how kind of we get a lot of support from a bunch of people. This might be a long shot. This might just not be a thing at all. But do you think the school's lack of football team has any part in that, or no? Is that just not a thing at all?
I don't think that's a thing.
I was just wondering about it because I feel like football can take away from a lot of schools' budgets and everything because normally that's just the sport people care most about, and we don't have one. And I was just wondering about it. That's fine.
Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about that, honestly.
Gotcha. All right. Well, the next question I want to head right into is, we've spoken a lot about different types of training here. Now, I'm generalizing kind of a good amount, but essentially there are kind of the people who take all of their easy runs really easy and then crush the workouts, and then the people who like to do everything at a moderate to hard pace. As a coach, what category do you say you lean towards more, and what do you think works the best in the end? The loaded question.
I don't think it's necessarily loaded. I think the way that I always word it is, or my philosophy has always been, take your easy days easy and your hard days hard. Like, and honestly, the thing about easy running is that it's at the person's discretion. You know, like 7:30 pace might feel super chill for one person, and maybe one person's super chill pace is 7 flat. Like, so it really just depends on the person. And I've never been the kind of coach to be like, every easy run has to be at this or slower, because I just don't think that that works. So with easy running, I would say, just whatever feels easy for you. Like, if you can have a full on conversation with someone, if you can, you know, sing your favorite song to someone or whatever it is on that run, then it's probably a pretty easy run. But if you're struggling on that easy run just to kind of keep the pace of what the group is doing, then it's probably not that easy. Right. And I've always said, like, I always give you guys the autonomy to be like, what is your easy pace today?
Right. Mm-hmm. A question about indoor. A lot of people say indoor is just a build up for spring track and that it doesn't really matter. What's like your view? Do you view it as a build up for spring track, or do you view it as like two separate seasons?
Well, I think it's two separate seasons, but I also think indoor, it depends on the person. Like, honestly, like someone who is focusing more on the 8 and the mile, those are two different seasons. But if you're focusing more on maybe the 10K or like steeple, indoor can help prepare you for that. But I think regardless of if that's your end goal or whatever, it's still two separate seasons and you have to train for two separate seasons. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what the overshadowing goal is and how we want to approach a season. But I think sometimes a lot of people will say like indoor, like you can't peak for because you can only peak so many times in a year, which is true. But I also think too that you still have to treat it like its own season comparative to just treating it like one blob season between indoor and outdoor.
Mm-hmm. So interesting question I wanted to know about is how big would you say the learning curve is as a coach in the NCAA, and how long did it take you to get comfortable with where you are?
That's a good question. I think that the learning curve never stops, if I'm being honest, because, training, as we talk about in the training log, training is always changing. Training is always adapting. Training is always evolving. Like, for example, because I did listen to last week's episode.
Thank you.
The idea of like double thresholds has really started to come into fruition like over the past, obviously people have been doing them forever, but like it really started to kind of work its way into like Division III per se, like over the last like 2-3 years. So like that's something that we never talked about my first couple of years of coaching or things like that. So training is always adapting, training is always evolving. So I think that it's like, I never want to say that I'm always comfortable, because again, like training changes and a good coach is always willing to adapt to training and what needs to happen, and that's different every single year. The training we did this cross country season, we didn't do a lot of this last year. Right. So like it changes every year, and any good coach is going to be adaptable and work to change from years past, because again, it's a different team every year as well. So we're never comfortable. We never settle.
Gotcha. Love adversity.
We never settle. It's like I tell you to. Yeah. Never settle.
We do not settle.
There's some programs that like don't take a day off that much, or take a day off every other week. Here we take a day off every week. Can you stress the importance of like why we take a day off every week?
I think it's a good reset. It's a good physical reset. It's even a good mental reset too. And part of the reason I like having that day off is because, again, like I feel like the body also needs it too, especially when you are younger. Like some of the upperclassmen who do run more will sometimes do 7 days, but then I make them take like the next day off. It just depends on the mileage piece. But I think it's beneficial because, again, like your body does need a day to rest, and if you overwork the body, then it's going to suffer by the time we get to where we need it the most, which is championship season, because your body is essentially the vessel that's carrying you. And so we have to, kind of like how we take care of like anything else in the world, you have to take care of your body as well.
I agree big time. I've heard about one big time. I know it's not the same thing at all, but athletes are athletes. The best running back in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey. I've heard from a source close to him that basically on his off days when he, isn't working out, isn't doing anything, I think it's the day after the NFL Sunday, he will lay in his bed or his couch, whatever, and do absolutely nothing. Like just lay there, sit there, only get up to eat, and that's it, or like go to the bathroom or whatever it is. And I just think it's really important, like you said, just stressing the importance of really resetting. I think that's a big word there, really resetting. Okay, just a little thing I wanted to throw in there. Anyway, here is my favorite question of the entire interview, and that is the favorite workout that you've ever written or maybe done, perhaps. But yeah.
Oh man,
It's a thinker.
like it's hard because there's like different workouts for different events.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Honestly, like obviously, like I did not write the Michigan. That was a very big Ron Worst. I think is how you pronounce his name.
I think so.
Ronnie Worst, yeah.
Yep.
Like obviously I did not write it, but like it is one of my favorite workouts, especially in cross country to do, because I think one, you get a lot of quality volume in there, and two, I think it's really good to just work through different gear changes, starting from like race pace and working down to like 3K and things like that, but also using the as recovery. So shout out to Ronnie Worst and the Very Nice Track Club.
Michigan.
Yes, Michigan. But I think in terms of workouts that I've written, I think some of my favorites are just like honestly classic staples, just like 3x3 x 1K or 3x3 x 800, or the steeple workout that I made JT do last year, which he got mostly right. Which was like the 1K at 5K, 2x8s over hurdle, so at steeple, and then 8x4 alternating mile and steeple, or even just like the work. I remember one workout I wrote for Jarsky last year. It was like 1x500 at goal 800. So not his current, it was his goal.
Mm-hmm.
So we did it at like, I'd have to look back in my notes, but I want to say we did it at like 152 pace. And then we did 3x300 at his current 8. So we went from like 152 to like 153 or something, which you wouldn't think makes a big difference, but it actually does when you like actually split it out to like the 100th of like what it actually should be. So like I really like workouts that I like classic staples, but I also like workouts that can challenge people too without breaking them at the same time.
Right. Cool.
What's your favorite event to watch?
Ooh.
See, that's hard because I like them all for different reasons.
Yeah.
See, like obviously I like steeple because it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't see people just jump over water very often unless it's a steeple race. But I also too I like a good 800 race. I like the physicalness that comes from like the start or things like that, and like having to jockey for position. Or I was a 10K-er in college. I like watching the 10K. So like I like them all for just like different reasons. So I can't just pick one. Okay. That's like picking a favorite child.
That's true.
Can I get your opinion, Noah?
Yeah.
Definitely the 800.
I was gonna say you're an 800 runner.
It's just so fun to run fast. Like, and then watching Jarsky, especially, like just watching him run the 600. That's just so hype. Like he's so fast.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was
so fun to watch.
I might have to be team. I mean, if we're talking on a professional, like the best in the world level, I think a good 1500 might be the most fun to watch because it's the perfect. Like you can see that they're moving, and they are. But it's also so strategic, and not that an 800 isn't, everything is, but a good professional 1500 might be the most fun event to watch for me. Like every time there's a world championship, like 1500, those finals.
That's the race, like the marquee of.
That's the race I want to watch. Yeah. See how Jakob is going to choke this time. But yeah.
Nothing irritates me more than a sit and kick 1500. I'm like, just go for it.
Well, if you know that the person in that race that's gonna sit and kick is just gonna, then it gets kind of boring. I think. Okay. So obviously you are a coach, and getting the best out of your own athletes is the priority. But this past cross country season, you did partake in a half marathon. Speaking on that, are there any personal athletic achievements that you like to pursue?
I don't necessarily know if like there's anything I'm like really going for. I mean, don't get me wrong, the half marathon was definitely fun, and it was actually your cousin Jenna that got me hooked into halves. Yeah,
she runs a lot.
She does run a lot of half marathons, so like it was cousin Jenna that got me hooked into the idea. But I don't really know. Like I think like a couple of my friends like were like, you should just run the Boilermaker this summer in Utica, and I'm like, okay, like so maybe I'll do that, but I don't really have anything like on deck right now, if you want to call it that. I'm just kind of living in the moment, and maybe I'll run the wine glass half again, to be determined. But Nothing really on deck like in this present moment.
Gotcha.
Gearing up into track season, what does a successful track season look like for you?
I could answer that in so many ways, man. There's all these open.
What are the goals?
Well, I mean, obviously, like I want to get as many people to the conference meet as I can, and like get as many people qualified for regionals as possible. I think those are kind of always the two stable goals as a coach. But I think really the biggest goal is I'd really like to see every single person on the distance squad have some sort of PR this season, whether it's from high school last year. Obviously, for the freshmen, it'd be from high school, but like I would like to see all 40 distance runners on the team this year PR in at least one of their events. That's probably like my big goal, and then obviously kind of just like the staple ones, get as many people to SUNYACs and like last chance meets as possible to try and make a push for NCAAs for some people, because I think we could send a few people to NCAAs this year in indoor. It's gonna be tough, but I think it could be doable.
Piggybacking right off what you said about 40 distance kids, is it tough to learn everyone's individual strengths and weaknesses, considering that you coach 20 men, 20 women, give or take?
I would say yes and no. Like in the beginning of like the whole year, I think it is, because at least when like this freshman class got to campus, you were all so quiet, and I was like, okay, we can speak, we can say some words, but like
and now we're speaking.
Oh yes,
literally
we
speaking.
We speak lots of words now, but I would say like in the beginning, especially for freshmen, it's kind of hard to gauge it. Like, and also too with racing, because obviously I watch a lot of you race in high school, but racing in college is a whole different ball game. So it's kind of just picking up like, yeah. I think it's just like picking up like, okay, like this is like obviously in your first AK, I'm not gonna know what your big weakness is yet, but by the time we got to your second or third AK, I was like, okay, that and that were good. That and that we need to work on or something like. And it's always the fourth mile in AKs with freshmen.
Well, yeah,
it's always that fourth mile. But as you guys race, as we train more, as we race more, it is easier for me to pick up on it, whether it's in like practice or just having conversations with you. Like, okay, like these are things that we need to kind of work on and things like that. And that's why I carry a giant notebook around me in the office, so I can just like write it all down.
Cool.
What do you think the biggest adjustment is for high school athletes to make, on the collegiate level?
I think it's just the training. Just having conversations with a lot of the freshmen, when I would ask you like, oh, what did you guys do for training? It'd be like, we ran, or we did a lot of 200s, or
I did do a lot of 200s.
Yeah. Do you know how many 200s you did back in the day?
How many?
Yeah.
Like
rough,
in total?
Rough estimate.
Like
how many
in my high school career,
yeah.
How many total reps of 200s?
Rough estimate. What do you think?
Oh man. You try to think of this too.
Get the odds up, higher or lower, like 1,000.
Oh man. I mean, wow, that's a great question. At least 500. Yeah. I want to say.
Yeah,
okay.
At the least. I mean, probably more.
Think about like the whole course. Yeah.
Over the course of all 4 years, and we would do, 200s is like our staple pre-meet workout. So for cross country, honestly, for like most meets. So honestly, probably at least 750 is my at baseline where I think I did in high school.
All right. 750, 200s. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Really, we kind of mixed between like 300s and 200s most of the time. So I don't know. A lot.
A lot. Okay. Yeah, no, so I think that's always a big adjustment, where it's like, oh, like how many miles a week did you run? 20 or none, or I don't know, I didn't count. So like I think really the biggest adjustment is just getting adjusted to, one, a new coach, and two, just different training. Because obviously if I asked every single freshman right now, like if the training from now to when they were in high school was drastically different, I think every single freshman would say yes. Like
drastically.
Yeah. So again, like I would say that's probably the biggest adjustment, is just like getting used to like, okay, like we're doing a lot more, you're running a lot, well, most of the time you're running more than you did in high school or things like that, unless you come from like a really big program. But I would say that's probably the big adjustment.
I don't know if we remembered to mention this in our first episode where we talked about high school to collegiate stuff, but I think one of the things me and Noah would always talk about after certain workout days was the fact that we weren't dead at the end of our college workouts now. Ooh. Whereas in high school, we would be struggling to even get on the line for the last rep, or like at the end of the last rep, just flop on the ground and like need like a good 10 minutes before I can even think about a cool down.
Yeah.
And now here it was like we'd get off the line and be like, I'm ready for more. And I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, in high school I remember just like multiple workouts in a row, like the cool down of me just going 10-minute pace, cramping and like this horribleness. But
well, and I think the big thing too is that, not every workout is supposed to kill you.
Correct.
Like I don't watch baseball, but one of my coaching friends mentioned it to me, the idea of hitting singles.
Yeah.
You hit some singles, like some light tempo or some threshold or a workout that you're like, okay, like I can do more of this. Where then occasionally you want that home run workout, like when we went to the grass track and did 3x3x1K, or even the Michigan was supposed to be a home run workout or just like any type of workout like that. Like that's why we only had so few of those compared to a lot of just like workouts where or like workouts where you're itching for more.
Right.
And I'm like, no, we don't need to do more today.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have some of those.
Right.
So I think that's another big difference too, is that not every workout is taking you to the well for the most part.
Am I up or are you up?
You got.
I'm up. Okay.
You're
Well,
up.
all right. Cross country is the best running season. Don't at me. That's my personal correct opinion. But cross country is the best running season for a reason, because it brings everyone together to one distance. So how do you go about writing different trainings for someone like a Jarski 800-meter runner compared to a Jack Bach 10K runner type of thing?
Well, I think that again, you're training for two very different things, where you have a 2-lap race versus a 25-lap race. So honestly, the way that I train like 5K, 10K guys and girls it's very similar to cross country because the energy systems are very similar. Whereas if you have an 800 runner, we might be doing a little bit less of the aerobic. We're still doing some, but we're not doing as much as like we did in cross country, but we're hammering more of that true speed. So again, like with the 800 group, they train with the sprinters one day a week, and then they come back and train with me on that Wednesday. So that way we're getting more of the 400, 200 side, plus we're getting that 800 specific work in. So that way we're getting kind of the best of both worlds. So we have the endurance, but also the true speed at the same time.
Right. I think, but like more specifically, how is it that you're training somebody who is more strong at the 800 and that's their main event, or somebody who is more strong on a 5K, 10K, and then meshing it together I'm saying in cross country season specific training.
In cross country.
If it changes at all. But like for somebody, who has more foot speed or who is less foot speed, more aerobic based.
I think it changes a little bit. Like the themes of workouts might be the same, but maybe if we're doing like a blend of like tempo speed, maybe someone who's more on the 10K side might do more of the tempo and less of the speed. Whereas someone who's more on the 800 or mile side might do a little bit less of the tempo, but do a couple extra reps of the speed. So like the themes of workouts in cross country are still the same, but the specifics of it might be different depending on the person.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I thought you were asking about track. I was like...
I was going to get to it, but you kind of answered it.
Yeah, I was like, we just kind of went backwards.
Yeah. Next year, we openly stated that we wanted to make nationals as a team in cross country.
That's my goal.
What does a national level team look like? And then what steps are we going to take to get there?
Well, for the first part, everyone has to run over the summer. It seems like something so easily stated, but sometimes things happen. Sometimes people kind of get out of routine in the summer. So that's why the summer, if the men's team really wants to make a national team push, is something that is so important. It's just doing the little things in the summer. Coming back in August, just like ready to hit the ground running is probably the biggest thing. Because if we're not ready by the time we come back in August to really hit it, then we're just playing catch up. So something so simple, just running over the summer is the first one. And then also too, what was the second part of that?
I'm just like, what steps are we going to take? And like, what does a national level team look like?
Well, I think a national level team is a team that, every single person is on the same page. You can't have one person just over there, just in the corner, twiddling their thumbs. Everyone has to be ready to go, paying attention to those little details, being ready to push when we need to push or things like that. And then also too, especially when it comes to those later season meets, it's just firing on all cylinders. Because again, to make a national team push, you have to be able to have a team resume. So we have to build that resume essentially in starting at the end of September up and through the championship season.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you balance, like, obviously you want to do good in all your meets, but ideally you want to peak at championship season. How do you balance like wanting to be good at the early season meets, but also like knowing we still have like 2 more months to go until November?
Well, so I think one of the things that, we do really well as a team is that, I don't put a lot of stock in September meets. Like when we went to even like our home meet, there wasn't a lot of stock put into that. It was just like, okay, we're going to train through this. So it's like picking and choosing like when we need to be ready to go and picking and choosing those meets where it's like, okay, we can just train through this and still be fine because we're still building. So in cross country, it's easier because again, we don't race as often as we do in track season, so we have that flexibility to say, okay, this is when we're going to train and this is when we're going to send it, so to speak.
Yes.
My goal is for the answer to this question to be changed by November of next year.
Oh.
But what was your favorite experience you've ever had at a meet that you've been coaching? And my goal would be for this answer to now be coaching the men's team at nationals next year. But as of now,
I mean, I would say there's probably, and actually all of my favorite racing memories have probably come from this past cross country season. Probably the first one was Geneseo when we had 31 PRs, like 13 top 25 performances and a school record broken. I was like, that's a pretty good day. Like I'll be happy with that. So that, and just seeing how everyone was just like, wow, like we actually PR'd and we have good vibes heading into the championship season. I would say was probably one of my favorite things, just to see like the looks on everyone's faces when they cross the finish line. And,
my catchphrase that day was Mike Woods is where dreams come true.
Yeah,
because it really was.
Did all your dreams come true, Mike Woods?
I mean, a minute and a half PB, it kind of was, yeah.
Slide. But yeah, I would say that was probably one, and then I would say another one too is definitely like regionals this year. Like especially on the men's side with having 3 true freshmen on the starting line. I was like, okay, like, and all my little freshman baby Slade. Go Slay. So I think having 3 actual true freshmen on the starting line and having that entire team returning, knowing that entire team is returning next year, I think was something really special to me. Like being like, okay, like we had some hiccups, but this was still a really good foundation. And then obviously I think my favorite coaching memory right now would probably be nationals. Last year was probably the like one of the most unforgettable ones, just because it was the first time like I've ever coached an athlete to the national meet. But then this year having 3 athletes go to nationals, I was like, okay, like this is something really special. And just the fact that a bunch of you got in the vans and drove down at 5 a.m. with Coach Mitch and things like that, I was like, wow, like this is a really special team. And I think that the future is really bright. So like honestly, like those are things that you never forget. Like you never forget your first conference champion. You never forget like the first time you send someone to nationals. Like those are things you don't forget. Like my first year here when Megan won the conference 10K, I was like, wow, like that's really cool. And like you never forget your first conference champion.
Gotcha.
Or the first time again you send someone to nationals, or the first time you send a group of people to nationals, and
yeah,
maybe next year I'll send a whole team to nationals.
Yeah.
And then the memory will just change again.
So at the conference meet at SUNYAC, the men's team's goal was top 3. We got 4th. Other than just having like a bad day, rough day, is there any like things you thought as a team that we could have improved upon? Or
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like sometimes we just get beat, and that's okay as long as we don't dwell on it. And I think the men's team, from what I saw at least, did a good job of like, okay, like this wasn't our day, we're gonna rebound and get ready for the next one. So like I wasn't like, I mean, obviously I was a little like bummed because I was like, oh wow, we were like pretty close, but I was also just like, we just got beat. There's nothing we could have done different. Like there's nothing more you can do some days. Some days it's just that simple. But I think next year we'll get it.
Yeah. This is a question I asked JT last week, but I'm curious on your take on it.
Oh, okay.
Is that speaking of someone like Ethan Gregg, who did not have that fast at PBs in high school, and now he's one of the best in D3. Sorry, the best in D3, and one of the best in the nation. Is it possible for you to just put your head down, do the work, and everybody has an 8 flat 3K in them, or is it just more depend on the person?
I think it's kind of a mixture. Like, we talk about this in the office sometimes. Like 2 of the biggest event categories that you can improve in a track are distance running and throws. Because again, like throws is something that you can make technical changes to and improve. Distance running, if you really put your nose to it and hit the grind, you can improve in that as much as you want to, one, and how much your body does let you to, because there are some genetic factors that go into it. But am I saying that, if you really put your nose at the grind, every single person is going to run 8 flat in the 3K? No. But, if you're, didn't you both run like 4:40 in the mile in high school?
Pretty much,
Yeah. Okay. So, like, again, like, you can run in the 4, you could probably break 4:30. You could probably, hell, even someday break 4:20. Like, obviously that's the goal at one point, I'm assuming.
Yes, it's the very least of the goal.
Yeah. But no, so, like, I think if you continue to put your nose to the grindstone, you can reach any goal that you want. And again, it depends on what the goal is, too. I feel like I know what your goal is.
No, you know what my goal is because I'm
said
not very shy
and
about it.
And I listen to your podcast.
Yeah, I'm not very shy about my goal, but that's just me dreaming for the stars, and I think what's the point if you don't do that? So
exactly, you have to, like, and that's the other thing too, like, everyone should have goals, and like, but not even having goals is like, why is that goal important to you? And, it's kind of like some of the self-reflection that I want everyone to do over the break is like, what are your goals, whether they're time goals or going to reach or whatever the goal is, why is that important to you, and what are you willing to do to get there? I think those are 2 questions that we don't always ask ourselves when we have goals. It's just like the why and the what. Like, what
True.
are you willing to actually sacrifice, or what are you willing to do? Like, it's a very under-addressed question, in my opinion.
I agree.
My last question that I have
Sure.
is, in coaching, who do you take inspiration from, and has there been that one person in the past that you looked up to as a role model in the sport?
Yeah, I would say I look up to, I kind of take like bits and pieces from other coaches. Like, I don't go to just like one coach or just follow like just the Jack Daniels or the Steve Magnuses or like anything like that. I follow like a lot of like Division 3 coaches, Division 1 coaches, and kind of just pick all their brains. I would say if there's like anyone really specific I look up to, I would say like probably 2 actually. I would say I look up to one. I do look up to Steve Magnus a lot. Like, I think that he is a really good coach. He's done a really good job with a lot of things. And then, like, I think I've read all of his books, actually, too. So, like...
Could you maybe give background on who he is?
Yeah. Steve Magnus used to coach at the University of Houston, and he's, like, a major exercise physiologist. He's written a lot of books on training and things like that. And also just written a lot of books in general. Like, he wrote, like, The Passion Paradox and Peak Performance, and also wrote, like, his own book called The Running Bible by Steve Magnus, and... put the link in the bio. Good.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored, but put the link in the bio. And then, so he's just written a lot of books about training, and I think that he has a really good perspective on just like the holistic approaches to athletes as a whole. And he's got some Workout Wednesday videos on Flow Track that I'm like, wow, those are actually really good workouts.
Gotcha. And
then another coach that I actually I wouldn't say look up to, but I've talked to a lot that I really respect is Derek Stanley at UW Lacrosse.
Oh.
Like, I have talked to him a ton. Like, I took the endurance certification course with him, and like, I think he is someone that has a really good perspective about Division 3 running. And like, because again, like, he's also Ethan Gregg's coach. Right. And obviously, like, I don't be like, what do you do with Ethan Gregg? But like, I do like pick his brain a lot, because I think that he has a really good perspective on the Division 3 athlete.
Lacrosse lost by 1 point in nationals this year.
Pomona Pitzer.
Yeah.
Damn. It was so close.
It was so close.
I really thought they had it, but I think Pomona Pitzer's fits just kind of slid in there, from what I could tell.
And they were ranked 8th. Yeah. It was wow. It's a big upset.
That's the beauty of NCAA. That's the beauty of cross country.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
You never know until you just run the race. Like,
yep.
That's why I love cross country and track too. Like, clocks don't lie.
Yep.
Clocks don't lie. Places don't lie. Like, just do it.
Rankings can be there, but you gotta actually run the race.
Correct. Those are facts.
All right, so you really don't have to answer this if you don't want. But what is your coaching kind of end goal dream job, sort of? Like, is the goal to one day become like a high-end D1 coach, or have you found, you think, a long-term home here in Oneonta?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the one thing I'll say is that I think track is divisionless now, especially
Yeah.
with like the amount of crazy times that people are running in even Division 3, and like I won't be shocked to see more Division 3 kids break 4 minutes in the mile or go under 8 minutes in the 3K or see someone break the national record again in steeple. Like I won't be shocked to see anything happen in Division 3 anymore. So like I wouldn't say that I necessarily have aspirations to go Division 1 or anything. I just want to work somewhere that, you know, that I really like the athletes I coach respect me, and like, so I'm just kind of living in the moment right now. But I would say like my end goal is just continuing to work in the sport.
Awesome. So I think what's going to happen now
No.
is we have a series of rapid-fire questions.
Yeah, rapid fire cool down.
Oh
to ask you.
gosh.
Yeah, it's like a cool down.
Yeah.
Honestly,
It's
we
like
could call this section the cool down if
Yeah,
you want.
yeah.
Honestly, time for the cool down. We just hit the workout.
Yeah.
We hit the work.
The interview was the workout. The warm up was the
okay.
little introduction.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And this is great. I love that we have this now. The
The cool down.
The workout is the interview, and the cool down is the rapid fire. I mean, technically, these are more comparable to like strides. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Okay.
But so here's how it's gonna work. We're gonna ask you them. You get like how much time? Not that much time.
Just fast.
Just fast. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna alternate asking. I'll ask the first one. We'll ask the second one, and we'll go from there. Are you ready
I was born ready.
for the cool down?
Bring it on.
Okay. Here we go. I'm gonna turn my
Oh,
computer away
so I
see.
can't look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. No cheating, right?
No cheating.
No cheating.
Favorite pro runner?
Shalane Flanagan.
That was fast. Good job.
You said rapid.
Yeah.
That's great. What's the largest animal you can theoretically beat in a fight?
Oh Jesus.
Oh wow.
Tiger.
No,
You
you
could beat
couldn't.
a tiger?
I don't know. Like well, you said large.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you
no,
can't beat that in a
eh,
fight.
Well, like the largest animal
Oh.
you can beat.
Goldfish.
Goldfish?
A
Goldfish.
Okay.
You could beat like a puppy. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
Any other job than a coach? What would you
Ooh.
want to be?
I'd probably go into sports psychology, honestly.
Best Pixar movie?
Finding Dory.
And last one. Favorite place you've ever traveled and dream vacation spot?
Dream vacation spot, definitely Italy. I've always wanted to go to Italy. Favorite place I've traveled? I don't really travel that much. Does going to like national meets count?
That counts.
That
Then
counts.
going to any national meet.
All
There
right.
you go. And you've completed the cool down.
Oh, I did?
Congratulations.
I passed?
Yes.
Oh,
you
yay!
passed. So I guess the last thing we always leave off with, I guess this could be like the stretch, the stretching after the cool down,
Sure.
if you want to call it that. Is we always ask the guests if there's any questions, comments you want to have for me and Noah after this hard workout we just put you
Oh
through.
my
So-
gosh, that workout was so hard. No, I mean, like, I guess, like, as your coach, I guess, like, one question that I think would be valuable to share to your viewers is that, well, kind of twofold.
Okay.
Kind of describe your recruiting experience to come here. And, well, actually, no, I'll wait. I want to hear how you thought your recruiting experience went.
Okay. You want to hit that first, or should I go for it?
I'll go first.
Okay,
Um,
okay. I want to hear that.
There's only a couple other schools that I was looking at, and I don't know, for like mostly when I met the team here, just absolutely, like I was like, this is great. And then the second, like I came here for 2 visits, and the second time, like right when I left, I was like, I'm going here. Like that's kind of what I felt, and I was just kind of like, I was still talking to like a couple other coaches, but like in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I really want to come here. So just like when I visited here, just the campus, academically, it worked out for me. The people on the team, the coaches, I thought it just all blended together, unlike all the other colleges. Like some other colleges, sure, academically it would work, but like the coach or a team I didn't really like, or like the financial reasons I didn't really like, but here just had the best blend of everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, kind of similar. I knew I wanted to run in college, definitely, but I wasn't really sure where would be the best fit for me, because as you could see by this, I kind of wanted to go into sports media stuff, specifically running media stuff. Now that's not a major in itself, but just I knew if I could go to a media school, a school that had a media program, then I could tailor it to do what I want in sports stuff. So I was looking for that major, and then obviously I really wanted to find a team that I gelled with and liked. So I went on a couple visits, I did a couple overnights. I just didn't really either one, I wouldn't meet the team or only meet a couple people on the team, or just didn't really feel like I'd fit in with every team I ever met with was nice. I just didn't feel like I fit in as much. And then I came here, and I think what was so awesome is that everybody's from New York, and a lot of people were from Section 1. Section 1 represent. And
I was a Western New Yorker, born and raised.
Let's go.
These two here, yeah, I know. But Section 1, right outside the city, best section out there. But I got to just even meeting other sections was really fun for me, and just be able to talk about just New York type things, as silly as that sounds. But just having lunch with them that first time was really fun, and just made me feel like I'd be a good fit here. And just meeting with, honestly, you and Chris in Couch was a big draw too as well, because I feel like a lot of the other coaches didn't really give me kind of the time of day, at least on an individual level, and that's kind of what I was looking for. So that, combined with liking the campus and the school, and I had my major and everything, is kind of what went into it when I came here.
So now, second part to this question.
Yes.
So first semester's almost done, right?
Yeah.
We're about to start finals week tomorrow, I think, right?
For us.
We have our first finals tomorrow.
Yeah. So your first finals are tomorrow. Give yourself, how would you kind of say your first semester was, not just academically, but how did you like having me as a coach for your first semester? How'd you like the running? How'd you like the training? How'd you like everything this semester?
So basically just rate the entire school experience.
Give it a letter grade.
Well, you can give it whatever you want.
1 to 10, 1 to 5.
Give it whatever you want.
Okay, I'm going to go 1 to 10.
All right.
And I'm going to go with a solid. Oh, wow. I'm going to go with a solid 8.5.
Okay.
A solid 8.5.
Oh.
Because I loved all the running. I did not love all the school, surprisingly enough. And I know that's going to be anywhere. I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of a lot of my classes. But I loved running. I loved everything team related that happened. I think we talked about this on our first episode a lot. It was just coming to practice is my favorite part of the day.
Slide.
Right? So it's just kind of finding things outside it. And I found things to do here and stuff. That's nice. But yeah, I'd say a solid 8.5. Just the only downsides are not liking school that much, which comes with anywhere, and maybe just, getting more acclimated socially. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I'll do a 1 to 10.
All right.
I'll give it an 8.7.
Oh, wow.
Just had to go one above you.
But I'm saying that because I think running, absolutely perfect. Like you said, practice, best part of the day. Just the environment on the team, amazing. School-wise, I changed my major, and I'm starting that up next semester. So, hopefully next semester the grade's even higher, that I'm actually doing something that I'm going towards, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just really excited. First semester, I thought we both handled it really well.
I feel like we did.
So
yeah.
I take it back. I have another question for you.
Go for it.
But just because I don't want to lose sight of, me and Noah do want to keep whatever audience we do have kind of in the loop about our own personal careers, running careers, and racing.
I'm all for it.
And so since you are, our coach, I just wanted to ask you, so I'm opening up at the Armory with the 3K, and he's opening up Utica with the mile, I want to say.
Probably, yeah.
Most likely.
Yes. You'll probably run the mile.
I'll probably run that same race. What would you like to see from us in our first opening races?
Well, I think really the first thing is it's hard to kind of gauge where we're going to be coming off of winter break training, coming back and getting back into that routine and everything. But I wouldn't be surprised to see either of you open with a PR in the mile, just because I think you're both in really good shape right now, and I wouldn't be shocked to see it. Are we going to have a huge PR in the mile? Don't know, but I think you could both PR from your high school mile in your opening meet. But really, that just comes down to building a good winter break base, having a good winter break training, and then just really just being ready to go when we get back here.
Cool. Well, unless you got anything else, do you have anything else?
No, I'm all good.
I guess
Nice.
like I got one more question.
Oh, you should have one more question.
I got
All right.
one more.
Okay.
You know, I would say like because again, like obviously I have a coaching account on Instagram and everything, and you know, like so for if any recruits were watching this, why would you tell them to come here in the fall?
I would say
Like why Oneonta?
come to Oneonta because you are not going to find a more committed team to actually winning and doing the right things than here with the people that are on this team and who have a commitment to wanting to improve more anywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah, I just say the environment of just from the coaches, the team, it's just a really like family atmosphere, I'd say. And when I visited other places, I just didn't sense that anywhere else.
You're going to find the perfect balance of wanting to improve super badly, really badly wanting to improve, but also people, you know, we don't take it so seriously that it sucks all the fun out of it. We have a lot of fun here,
We do have fun.
but we do really want to improve. So
Facts.
that's my pitch
Yeah, that's all the questions.
to
that
the
I have.
millions and millions of viewers watching the Training
We're
Log
built-
podcast.
We're building that fan base.
We are
here.
building a fan base, hopefully.
I'm hoping you build that fan base.
Thank you.
I do what I can.
Thank you. So, unless anybody else has anything.
I got nothing.
Anything for good of the order?
For the good of the order,
Oh.
should we break?
I love that. We can break.
We can
It's
break.
your
Let's do it.
podcast.
Yeah.
All right, we'll break, and then we
Ready?
can work on it afterwards.
Alrighty. Ready?
1, 2, 3,
Two,
break. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah,
See you guys
we'll
later.
work on that. Yeah.
Bye.